Hello, 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 and welcome back to another story time. This time my drawing will be completely unrelated to the story. But with that being said, let's begin. Have you ever felt cold? Not like, oh, it's cold, I need to go grab a hoodie. But cold enough that you know if you don't do something soon and find some heat, something bad will happen. For context, my family was looking for a place with some land so we could own a horse. I grew up as one of those little horse-loving girls, and my parents had just found a really, really old horse. But since we lived in city limits, we had to pay a livestock corral rent to be able to board him there. My parents have done a bit of looking around and found a house a long, long ways out in the boonies that was supposed to be perfect for us. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, plenty of land with a small, kind of like lean-to barn, and even an old chicken coop. We were doing our best to get our original house sold so we could move into this other one. But so many red flags kept popping up. God was making it really clear that He did not want us going there. But as we ignored all of His warning signs, and we continued to push forward with our plan getting that other house. We had signed the papers to move into the house towards the end of autumn. Keep in mind that these papers weren't the title to the house. I was unaware of how shady the business deals were about the house, and my family didn't know of any of the issues regarding us moving into it. One of the first things that went wrong was the pipes bursting constantly underneath it. No pipes meant no water. Thankfully, the school that my sister and I went to at that time had a shower we could use. But from there, the power would constantly go out due to high winds. And if you haven't been to Wyoming, we are known for getting 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts there, constantly. So that meant there were no lights and no water. Just great, right? But no, there's more. On top of all that, the only heat sources in this house was a wood stove in the hallway outside of the main home and a pellet stove in the living room. We were just getting into winter at this point and had no idea what we had gotten ourselves into. So with no heat, no electricity, and no water, we were facing something worse, with weather getting bad. My sister and I, though we had our own rooms, weren't able to sleep in them. It was too cold to venture into that part of the house. Our rooms were the furthest away from the little pellet stove in the living room. That winter, Wyoming was reaching record lows in the negative 40s, before wind chill. And the pellet stove kept breaking. My sister and I would sleep on the hide bed in the living room right next to the stove, with all of the blankets that we could find. We would wonder each night if we would wake up the next morning due to how cold it was. My mom is such a hero. Through all of the odd hours of the night, she would constantly be doing her best to get up and tend to the fire and fix the stove. She would wake up extra early to get my sister and I clothes and warm them up, so each and every morning we could wear something that didn't feel like ice. Just so you can get a picture of how bad it was, my family had just done a grocery run to the town about 4 hours away. Among some of the things that we had gotten was a thing of peanut butter. We had left it on the countertop overnight, and it was 10 feet away from where my sister and I were sleeping. And we got to wake up to a thing of frozen peanut butter on the counter. We had to microwave it when the power returned just to be able to get a spoon to chisel the top. 10 feet from where we were sleeping, from where the only source of heat was in this house. I had recently asked my sister what we used to do for fun while we stayed there, and she said we stayed warm for fun. We survived for fun. We didn't play any kind of games when we were there, even with my abundance of toys, just in my room, just because of how cold it was. But since I was so young at this time, I didn't know what my parents were facing. My parents were trying to make payments on this house, but no bank would finance us because, apparently, this house that we got were two separate segments of a mobile home, shoddily put together. On top of all that, the title papers for this house were still nowhere to be found. The realtor who sold this property to us was well aware of that fact and neglected to inform us about it, as well as the previous owner treating our house payments as if they were rent. That was not a part of any of the contracting. None of the house's issues were brought up when they should have been. My parents were being told to get out of the house, knowing full well that the people who sold it to us were evil liars. After about 8 months of living there, my sister and I's 4-H leader had offered my family a place to stay while we got back on our feet. So our group of 4-Hers who had helped us move in helped us out once again as we packed our things and left. I had no idea at the time that my family was technically temporarily homeless. There's not enough thanks that I would be able to speak over my 4-H leader for the kindness that she had shown my family. She had put in an extra heater in the back of her home to accommodate us, and even had gone out to get fun hot chocolate mixes, just to make certain that our stay was as enjoyable as possible. For about a week of living with her, my mom had been praying about finding the perfect place, and for God to show her what He had planned for us. During this time, she had found a place that was just a heaven-sent home. It used to be a thoroughbred breeding facility, 3 large barns, multiple outdoor runs that led into indoor stalls, a tack room where we could keep our grain, but most importantly, a house that would be able to provide everything we needed. There were 2 wood stoves that could be used for heating, but there were vents throughout the house that already did so. Water that pipes underneath the house wouldn't break. Electricity closer to the town's power supply that wouldn't go out with the smallest breeze. And the best part about it was that it was less than 10 minutes away from my childhood home. My family had found a place to call home. God had a plan for us when we had gone ahead with our own ideas. He had just been waiting for us to surrender to Him, instead of running off to do what we thought was best. And once we surrendered, He had blessed us with our acres of paradise. If I were to say the moral of this story, I'd say, buy all the blankets. I know that this story isn't as chipper as most of my others, but this section of my life had really taught me a lesson about who to rely on and who to trust. My family had trusted the people who showed us the house, and we had learned a hard lesson. I got to learn that I can trust my mom would bend over backwards to be able to provide for me and my sister. I had learned that as soon as you surrender your high pride and trust God with your problems, that He will provide for you. I just want to thank God for providing me the people that had helped us out during this time. To my fellow 4-Hers, to my 4-H leader, my mom, and even my sister who stuck by my side throughout it all. So thank you. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe. It shows me that you enjoy this kind of content and helps encourage me to make more things like this. Plus, I still have a lot of stories that I'd like to share with all of you. And if you want to have any sneak peeks at upcoming projects, head over to my Patreon. There, you'll be able to see what upcoming videos I'll be making, as well as being able to vote to see what stories can come next. But until then, I hope you all have a blessed day. I mean, who has to microwave peanut butter?